Okay, we'll bring the Corporate Services Committee meeting to order. And first on the agenda is a report for previous strategic planning items with attachment that has an attachment. There's a recommendation the Corporate Services Committee receive this report for information purposes. If I could have a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Reeve Miller and seconded by Councillor Mackay. Any comments? No? Then I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Second item, there's a recommendation the Corporate Services Committee recommend Council of the Township of Whitewater Region enact a bylaw to appoint Bill Tripp as municipal livestock valuer and fence viewer. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor McLaughlin, seconded by Councillor Mackay. Any comments? Do you have anything to add to this, Rob?
Just to note and to give thanks to Mr. Tripp Sr., who resigned earlier this year as a fence viewer, as well as Mr. Bromley, who recently resigned as a livestock valuer. You'll remember that we had a second one, and we went out with a posting early in the year to try to get a second valuer, but at this point we didn't get anybody. We're turning to Mr. Tripp because he knows what a cow looks like. He's a long-time farmer, knows the farming community, knows about fences and knows about livestock valuation. So, and he's a part-time staffer here, so it made sense in terms of a relationship that we have with them. What we will ensure is that he gets all the necessary training to assist him in his role. If there is a fence viewing request, 3 fence viewers go out, so he'll be able to learn from the well-versed other fence viewers, and the ministry will provide some assistance to help us with the valuation to ensure the forms and the proper photos are being taken for valuation purposes. So it's just really to deal with these 2 resignations that need to be addressed.
Thank you. Councillor McLaughlin?
Just a comment. Is there some kind of the evaluators? Is there a course or that they attend, or do you know, Robert?
What I've seen is the province provides it in spurts. So if when there was changes to the program a few years ago, they did provide it. There's a lot of some written material that they'll provide. Anytime that I've asked recently, even before I came here, they weren't offering the courses as often as they do. But it's something that maybe we'll check in with our neighboring municipalities to see if a refresher would be reasonable. But based on what I know of recent requests, they haven't been providing additional training.
No, in my time, I've never heard of them offering anything. I think it's too bad, because it would give you, some kind of a background towards it.
For sure. I know the last one I know of was 2010 in Ottawa, when I was in the area before I left to go to Meaford. So it's been a while, and the program has changed a couple of times. So it's really about getting there in a timely fashion, noting whether or not there was an incident of predation and if there have been measures to prevent it, and to take the necessary photos to confirm what happened. Those are really the 3 key things that come into play.
Okay. I just was kind of food for thought, or trying to solve my interest anyway. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Any other comments or concerns? Councillor Mackay?
I think Bill will do a good job, because they had a lot of cattle. They used to keep sheep and horses, so they know all about predators. He's a guy that he knows when something's been tampered with and not, so that's good.
It's not a very pretty job.
No.
Just one thing I should add, we added a provision in the bylaw that if the valuer is not available, or if there's a family conflict, that we can call upon any duly appointed valuer from a neighboring municipality. It does happen that Bill's involved in active farming, so say he has a claim, or if it's a cousin or an uncle, sometimes the ministry will ask what the relationship is. So what we've added is a provision in the bylaw that says if we need to, we can call upon one of our neighbors to send in a valuer.
Very Very good. Anything else? Then I will call for a vote. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. And finally, we have a recommendation that Corporate Services Committee recommend Council of the Township of Whitewater Region direct staff to complete an application under the Municipal Asset Management Program, MAMP, for data collection and reporting. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor Olmsted, second by Councillor Mackay. Well,
I'll turn it to Janet. Janet's done the legwork on this one.
Thank you.
So we have another grant that we're looking at applying for, the Municipal Asset Management Program, or MAMP, as they call it. Anyways, there's a new regulation coming out, Bill 6, and with it comes a number of new requirements for asset management. I'll point out the few ones that are required. January 1st, 2019, we need our Strategic Asset Management Policy. By 2020, we need to complete Phase 1, which is core infrastructure assets. I've actually defined core infrastructure assets, and I'd like to indicate it includes paved and unpaved roads, bridges, which in our case the county manages, culverts, that's all culverts, and any assets involved in wastewater collection, conveyance, treatment, and disposal, urban and rural stormwater systems, water treatment, distribution and transmission, and public and non-profit housing infrastructure, which typically the county manages. So at this point, compared to the old asset management plan, if I can refer to it in that manner, we really looked at our paved roads. So we do have a significant amount of work to do. First of all, by adopting some policies, so we'll look at that sooner than later. Phase 2 is all infrastructure, so I'd like to define that as well. All infrastructure includes the core we just indicated, and all other tangible capital assets consolidated on the financial statements. So anything in our financial statements, so now we're into our buildings, our fleet, everything must be completed by 2021. And then there is some other requirements by 2022, and that goes back to, I'll call it more administrative ends, which is making your financial plans match and looking at how you're going to address your financial shortfalls. So there's probably going to be a lot of policy development required to complete that Phase 2. So what we're looking at with this grant is we want to try and we'll maximize the grants up to $50,000. We've been instructed that typically they're offering $35,000. So if we stay within that and we pay our portion, it would cost us about $8,750 above and beyond to get the full $35,000. And what we'd like to look at is potentially doing a review of all of our water and wastewater assets, and getting some financial dollars and some life cycle costing and numbers, valuation of years to go along with that. So we think that would help us immensely. We've tossed around some policy work, but we believe that we probably can do a good portion of that in-house, and we can minimize any external contracted costs associated with that. So that's basically where we're at.
Thank you, Janet. Any other comments or concerns? Then we'll call for a vote. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. And that concludes our corporate services. Thank you.
We'll start the community services portion of the meeting. Item A is La Paz and Westmeath boat launch, DFO lease renewal. Recommendation is that the Community Services Committee recommend Council of the Township of Whitewater Region enact a bylaw to renew the existing agreement for the term 2015 to 2020, even though we're in 2017, with the Minister of Fisheries and Oceans for the continued operation of the boat launches at Westmeath and La Paz. Jordan, you want, sorry, we have a mover, Councillor McLaughlin, seconded by Councillor Mackay. And, oh, sorry, this one's Robert.
I inherit the ones that are 3 years behind. So, DFO contacted us, in the summer to say, oh, we noticed you haven't paid your $500 rent since 2014. So this is a long-standing agreement with DFO for use of those two facilities. We were charged a percentage of what we make, and because we don't charge for the use of those boat launches generally, we pay about $500. So it's a $500 annual fee to operate both those. So this is the standard DFO agreement for these old, quote-unquote, small harbors. And we would also catch up in terms of the annual payments, and this would take us to 2020.
Any questions or concerns, comments? Councillor McLaughlin.
Just a comment, and I don't know. I know we at one point were talking about dredging the Westmeath boat launch. Has there been any history, or have you looked back into it? Or?
We haven't looked at that, and it's maybe something we'll take note of, but the permit required to do that is something we should look at. The one issue that we are going to look at in the 2018 budget that has come to our attention is the dry well that's used there for firefighting purposes and hasn't been operational for some time, so we are going to get a quote and bring forward a budget item to fix that issue, but we will make note of the dredging issue, and Jordan, if you don't mind mentioning it for the rec master plan process as well. It's good to note.
Yeah, and I think if you look back, there has been some legwork many years ago was done on it, but just legwork. Nobody had ever contracted, because I think it's quite an operation, but I don't know much about it. I just know from sitting around the table that it was brought forward, and then it's kind of just went, and we've had a lot of changes, so maybe it needs to be something that just tweaked, brought forward.
Any other comments? Seeing none, yep, sorry.
That to Councillor McLaughlin, and if I recall, I think the reason that kind of came to a quick halt was the price. I think it was a pretty hefty price tag for that, if I can recall. So.
But it was still something that I know the previous council had certainly looked into doing it, and I think it is needed.
Yep.
I realized, yes, permits and cost were a factor, so, but
yeah, definitely.
if we don't have the information, then we can't decide what we're going to do.
It's good to look at it again.
Councillor Mackay.
I also heard that the environment is a little stricter now on where you put the fill and where you dig, and somebody told me that in Westmeath that you can have trouble with the environment, so that's another thing we have to look into.
Add it to the list. No. Okay, we'll take a vote. All in favor? That's carried. Second item is Future Sign Multimedia Displays, Inc. Recommendation, the Community Service Committee recommend Council of Township Whitewater Region enact a bylaw to enter in an agreement with Future Sign Multimedia Displays, Inc. for the installation of a digital screen at the Cobden Astrolab Arena. Mover, the Reeve, and seconder, the Mayor. That's pretty good company. Jordan?
Thank you. Recently Community Services was approached by Future Signs Media Displays, Inc. To install a digital sign. And so the sign would be essentially a big screen TV that would be 47 to 52 inches, depending on where we put it. They would like to see it be situated in a high-profile location, so somewhere near the front entrance. In consideration to sell the advertising, they would actually propose to install the equipment as well as give us the equipment at zero cost. So this would actually allow an opportunity for us, the township, to kind of share information. So even though they'll be having ads put up there, we'll still have a block that we can manage ourselves, and we can put community events up there, anything that's important to the township. And of course, once we get going, and if they can sell advertising, then we can use it as a revenue stream, which is actually beneficial for us in our bottom line. And we've had there's been similar arrangements throughout the area and neighboring municipalities. And I actually had phoned the town of Petawawa, just for just some kind of referencing, and they're extremely happy with the services and whatnot. So the value of this is approximately $5,000. And of course, like I said, they would install everything, and then it's just kind of a waiting game. And on the anniversary of the 3rd year, we'll start collecting revenue in the amount of $1,000.
Sounds pretty positive. 2 questions I have. One is, I assume this is an interior unit, not an exterior unit?
Yeah, absolutely. So the proposed area, actually, if you walk into the Cobden Arena, right to your left, there's actually currently a sign there, and it's just kind of manned with just lettering that you just post yourself. So that wall is perfect. They went and they've taken a picture of the area and kind of proposed to us where they would put the screen. And just be a little bit just ensuring that we have a source of power and kind of move from there. So.
Okay. Second question I have is, who's responsible for providing the content, actually inputting? For instance, you have Taste of the Valley coming up. Do we input that? Do you input that?
Yeah, so staff would be responsible for it. They would manage their advertising stream, but then we'd also manage so once it's installed, we get all the software and whatnot. We can assign a staff person to update it. And it's just your typical software that you'd use for like website kind of items. It wouldn't be difficult. And so.
Fantastic. Councillor Rieger?
I'm just wondering for that price, if we could possibly even look into budget to possibly putting one in Beachburg and Westmeath as well, and being at the other end of the township.
Yeah, absolutely. So there currently is TVs there right now. But Future Signs, a couple of years ago, actually, they did approach Beachburg. But as you guys can imagine, as soon as you went into the arena, there's quite a bit of community support, and there's quite a bit of signs, so they couldn't compete with the advertising dollars. So they have to ensure that they can get that revenue before they can actually put a TV sign up.
Okay.
But they definitely would be interested if that opportunity ever came again.
Just to be clear, what Councillor Rieger said, the price, am I misunderstanding? We're not putting out $5,000 here, right?
That's correct, yeah. There is no cost for us. Yeah.
Perfect, we'll take the 3.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll take a vote. All in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. 3rd item, street Christmas lights in Beachburg. Recommendation that Community Service Committee receive this report for information purposes. Do you want to speak to it at all, Jordan?
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, I guess we need a mover and a seconder. Mover, Councillor Rieger, seconder, Councillor Mackay. And Jordan?
All right, perfect. So there was $5,000 put in the budget for new Christmas light fixtures. And the existing budget for this year will support 9 custom-made light fixtures that will go on the main street of Beachburg. The cost will include freight, and it was purchased from a company in Ontario called Classic Displays out of Mississauga. So the light fixtures are about 5 feet high, and they're in the design of a shooting star. They're actually quite nice. They'll have like a soft white light to them. The Christmas lights are currently being made as we speak right now. Will be shipped to us by the end of November, and we have an installation date of December 1st. The Otto River Power Corporation will be installing them for us at no charge. That was kind of something that's a good working relationship we've had with them. Moving forward, we'd like to kind of use this as a capital item for 2018 and see if we can finish off the rest of the light standards.
Any questions or comments? Councillor Rieger?
This is great, because what we had out there was really not acceptable. We had tinsel blowing down the streets and pieces of it wasn't good. So this is exciting.
These ones will be secure, like they come with the light pole standards as well, so there'll be a fix to that. And then kind of moving forward, whatever we decide for 2018, we can change up the design as well. So right now we have shooting stars, but we can kind of mix and match to kind of add some variety to the street. So.
And ideally, our Santa Claus parade out there is the first Saturday of December, and I'm not sure what that date is, so it'd be ideal to have that. So we'd have that in place for that.
Yeah, so that's the game plan.
Excellent, thank you.
Councillor McLaughlin?
What I want to know, Jordan, is there a place to store these things?
As of right now, we don't have storage, but we're looking into 2018 perhaps buying a C-can for community services, and we can store them.
I think if we're going to spend this kind of money, we need to store them in a proper place, because I know, I've no idea, but there's a bunch stored behind the, garage in Cobden, out in the weather.
Mhm.
So that does not, you know, if we're spending this kind of money, we're spending $10,000, we need to find somewhere for storage. I don't know what's in Westmeath, in that area that we cleaned out, if that's a suitable place, but they need to be, if we're gonna spend this money, we need to either, like you say, a sea can somewhere, so they're protected and they will last. Because it's not that long, I think the ones in Beachburg, were they revamped, or was it the ones in Cobden? I can't remember, maybe Councillor Rager can remember. I don't, but one of them were done, and, these things, you know, they're worth a lot, they cost a lot of money, we need to protect them, so that's my only major comment is, let's make sure that these 10 get somewhere, they're stored, and then go forward if we need a sea can.
Okay, Mayor?
That's what I'm thinking.
Yes, I can answer to that. Traditionally, the Christmas decorations after the storage center in Beachburg was sold, then reverted down to the upstairs section of the Fortress Falls Fire Department, and that is where they've been stored ever since. So they're well out of the weather.
Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, we'll take a, do we need to vote on that? Yeah? It's an information purposes, right? Okay, we'll take a vote. All in favor? Opposed? And carried. Fourth item, mobile skate sharpening services at Beachburg Arena. Recommendation, oh boy, I'm gonna need a drink of water for this one, eh? Okay, the recommendation, the Community Service Committee recommend Council of the Township of Whitewater Region direct staff to: number one, in keeping with historical arrangements of the Beachburg Recreation Association inherited by the township, continue to allow Paul's Pro Shop to provide mobile skate sharpening on township property at the Beachburg Arena for the remainder of the 2017-2018 ice season, limited to Sundays and 3 Saturday tournament bookings. Number two, continue with the current practice of not providing skate sharpening services inside the township's owned and operated arenas. Number three, not pursue the licensing of businesses as permitted under the Municipal Act 2001, specifically as it pertains to transit traders, hawkers, and peddlers. That's right, I said transit traders, hawkers, and peddlers. And number four, develop a vendor fee for 2018 for any business operating on township property with the authorization of the township on a seasonal or annual basis. And Jordan. Oh, sorry, mover. Councillor Mackay, seconder, the mayor, and now Jordan.
Thank you. So yeah, recently Community Services was approached by a resident in Beachburg who wanted to see the mobile skate sharpening service discontinued in the arena, or outside the arena, I should say. The resident also runs a skate sharpening business out of their home, and they are available 7 days per week. However, when staff did ask for the hours of operation, they couldn't clearly give us and define their hours. The resident expressed concern about the business owner that they don't pay taxes to the township and they shouldn't be allowed to provide the service. Paul's Pro Shop, who is on site 1 day per week, you know, he's very consistent with his times and the service. This arrangement was with the Rec Association and of course inherited to us. And you know, we're looking to move the current location where he is. He's actually on the Egg Society to the township property. And like I mentioned before, just part of the transition in our arena operation, we're trying to keep everything status quo. And we'd like to see the practice and arrangements from the previous Rec Associations continue.
Robert?
You can blame me for hawkers and peddlers and transient traders. The issue, though, if we did license businesses, I've worked in other municipalities that license taxis and chip trucks and whatever else. We are entitled to do that under the Municipal Act. The one thing I would like to underscore is that if we did, we could not prohibit a business to come to our township solely on the basis of the fact that they're not from the township. So it's illegal under the Municipal Act to, if you had a licensing scheme, to not give a license just solely on the basis that somebody was not from within your boundaries. So we're not recommending pursuing any licensing of businesses, but that is important to keep in mind in terms of that dimension of this request. So again, as Jordan has said, we're trying to ensure in the transition that it's pretty much status quo, that we're continuing with the historical arrangements that were in place. We're dealing with the same issues with the canteen operators, for instance, in Westmeath and Beachburg, and we're continuing to work with the vendors that were already in place. And next meeting, next week, we're going to be bringing forward the fees and charges bylaw, and we're recommending that anytime we allow a business to operate on our property, either on a seasonal basis or an annual basis, that we would put in place a vendor fee for them to use our land for that specific purpose. So this is a bit of history that we're inheriting, and we're just trying to ensure that there's continuity.
Mayor.
The mobile skate sharpening is 1 day a week, and the other skate sharpening in the home is 7 days a week. I'm at a loss to figure out how that would really, you get your own clients, and if you're open 7 days a week, I don't know how that would be a big interference. I could be wrong. I just don't understand how that would be a big issue. Thanks.
Okay, Councillor Mackay.
I believe Paul's here. Maybe we could ask him, if you have any questions, ask him.
I think council would have to agree to let him speak.
Okay, I just wondered if there was anything.
Even if he wished to speak. I think in this case, it's pretty well spelled out in the recommendations. And I personally think number 3 and 4 of that item takes care of potential future issues, in just with regards to vendors coming up and setting shop in front of current property owners or businesses that are operating. So I think looking at number 3 and 4 will help clean that up going forward, and it helps protect some of the municipality as well. Any further comments, questions? Seeing none, we'll take a vote. All in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. And that's it for me. Up next, economic development and tourism.
Can't wait. I'm bringing this paper, not bringing. Okay, this Economic Development Tourism Committee Community Improvement Plan, Phase 1. Can you talk to that?
This is just an information report. We have a public meeting scheduled for November 1st. I just want to reiterate that a community improvement plan does not impose additional regulation. It's the township's ability to offer financial incentives. This report is just before you ahead of that meeting, so you're aware of the draft report now in its 3rd version. The Ministry of Municipal Affairs provided some comment, and we did have Brian Whitehead provide a peer review. The one major change is the incremental loan in terms of if there was an increase in the value of your property. We had to remove that. That only applies to if we had a brownfields program. We do not have that in Phase 1. It's something we're looking at in Phase 2 that we haven't even started yet. So the other thing we clarified is that we do not have a sign bylaw because one of the grant opportunities if the businesses are improving their signage. So what we're going to develop is some guidelines to assist them and to assist council when you're going to be looking at some of these grants for signs, but in no way do we regulate signs. So it's just to reiterate that this is about financial incentives to promote renewal and redevelopment within our villages and hamlets. You may have seen that we've got a request for proposal out for Phase 2, and Phase 2 is going to apply to the entire township and also provide financial incentives for people, for instance, to move their septic further away from the lake, added agricultural initiatives and potential brownfield sites, for instance, the former mine, to allow for their redevelopment. And we're going to need a professional planner to help us with that, but we did get rural economic development grant money for half of the cost to do that. So we're hoping to complete that work by the end of March. So public meeting on November 1st on this first phase, and just kind of the final draft of the plan is included in the agenda.
Okay, that concludes economic development.
Mover and seconder to receive it.
Vote on it?
Just to receive it.
Okay. Mover and second.
There, Mike.
Mayor Johnson? All in favor?
To receive it.
Okay, carried. It's on, it's off. Get lost.